Hello friends, this channel, Editorial Made Easy for IAS exam, is an attempt to dissect and analyze few of those selected editorials and opinion pieces which could help you in writing your UPSC main exam. Today, in this episode, we are going to discuss one of the opinion pieces that appeared on 25th June 2019 in the Hindu newspaper. This opinion piece is titled Basic Needs and Basic Rights, and it is written by Shri Rajeev Bhargava, professor at Center for the Study of Developing Societies. For the convenience of analysis, I have segregated the entire article into collection of 9 screenshots. Every screenshot has been marked with multiple arrows to highlight the salient points raised by the author. In subsequent slide, I have summarized the message in simple words. Hope you do appreciate the effort that has gone into making this episode. At the very outset, the author has built up his case for the need of basic rights against the aftermath of the horrific tragedy in the Muzaffarpur, Bihar. Here, the author is sharing 3 of his primary thoughts. First, it is time to articulate an equally robust doctrine of basic rights. Second, it is a right which is positive in the sense that it is not an interference from the state. Third, the government of the day must also be punished for the violation of these basic rights. So the important message in this screenshot could be summed up through these couple of points. First, it's high time to articulate a constitutionally backed, robust doctrine of basic rights. Second, and the government of the day to be held legally accountable for its violations. In the second screenshot, the author is trying to drive home the point that basic rights flow from basic needs such as physical security or subsistence. If you look at the second arrow down below, the author has given a pertinent example of subsistence. Here it says that failure to get an antibiotic if you have a bacterial infection can hurt you very badly. So, a couple of observations which could be summed up are: first, basic rights flow from basic needs, and the needs could be security or subsistence. Fulfillment of these needs guarantees a minimum dignified standard of living to everyone. Second, for example, access to antibiotics when you need them for survival becomes basic right. In this particular screenshot, the author is trying to equate the need for basic rights with the need for water, food and air. And when you look at the second arrow, you'll see that the author is making an observation that people invariably suffer if basic needs are met inadequately or with delay. So, two of the most important points that is flowing from the observations are: first, fulfillment of basic needs to ensure minimum living standard of a dignified life is something as non-negotiable as the need for air, water and food. And second point is, if a person is made to suffer due to the inadequacy of basic needs, that means he is not getting an equal opportunity to make his life worth living. In this screenshot, there is a fair observation made by the author that elementary justice requires that the state does everything at its disposal to satisfy all basic needs of its citizens, especially of those who cannot fend for themselves. And these basic needs are in fact entitlement. These are the claims on the state to provide us with goods and services that satisfy our basic needs. So the observation can easily be summed up through these 2 points. First, elementary justice requires that the state should be able to provide the citizen with goods and services to fulfill all their basic needs, especially the ones who cannot fend for themselves. Second, right is not a favor but an entitlement. It helps in recognition of anything that satisfies the basic needs. In this particular screenshot, you can see that the author, at the cost of repetition, is trying hard to drive home the point that basic rights are a shield for the defenseless against the most damaging threats to their life, which include starvation, epidemic, and disease. Besides, these rights are basic also because many intrinsically valuable rights can be enjoyed only once these rights are secured. Therefore, two major points which are flowing from this screenshot are: first, when the state becomes a guarantor of basic rights, it acts as a primary shield against starvation, epidemic, and disease. Second, many other rights tend to flow from the fulfillment of these basic rights. For example, the right to assemble in public space doesn't mean much if there is an immediate threat to life. In this particular screenshot, the author is referring to an article published in the Hindu by Dr. T. Jacob John, titled "Averting Deaths in Muzaffarpur," and I advise you to read that article to understand and appreciate that there indeed exists a very straightforward link between malnutrition and disease. In fact, the Muzaffarpur tragedy amply proves that the right to primary health care is also an integral part of the right to subsistence. Besides, it's a very common knowledge that malnourishment lowers resistance to disease. So, the Muzaffarpur tragedy just goes to prove that how the right to primary health care should form an integral part of the right to subsistence, because there exists a direct correlation between malnourishment and disease. In this particular screenshot, the author is trying to provide solutions wherein credible threats to these basic rights could be reduced by the government by establishing institutions and practices that assist the vulnerable. For example, by setting up hospitals with adequate number of doctors, nurses, beds, medical equipments, intensive care units, essential drugs, and emergency treatments. So, what it means that essentially threats to the basic rights can be negated by the establishment of those credible institutions that instill confidence among the most vulnerable lot of our society. Here, the author is also suggesting that the government must make arrangements for people to demand that their basic rights be satisfied, to complain when these demands are not met, to report lapses and omissions on the part of governments, point fingers at apathetic government officials, criticize the government for its failures, and to do so without fear. Essentially, what it means that if at all the government of the day is to be held legally accountable for any lapses in the provision of basic rights, there has to be some built-in mechanism wherein reports of failures and omissions on the part of the government could be pointed out by anyone without any fear. In the last screenshot of this article, the author is absolutely right when he says anything short of a minimally decent life is simply not acceptable. Governments, both at the center and the state, are routinely abdicating their responsibilities, and it's high time we must ask why governments shouldn't immediately and severely penalized when they undermine the exercise of these basic rights. Essentially, what it means that there has been a long history of government of the day abdicating its responsibilities for all the sufferings that they might have caused directly or indirectly. It's high time to make the government accountable. Having analyzed and thoroughly discussed the widespread need for basic rights, I hope you are now in a better position to answer few of the probable questions which could come up in UPSC main exams. These probable questions are: 1. What is the difference between fundamental rights and basic rights? 2. Why do you think there is an urgent need to have constitutionally backed robust doctrine of basic rights? 3. State, by guaranteeing basic rights, can successfully tackle the triple problem of poverty, unemployment, and disease. Elucidate. Friends, I do know that you all are academically bright students, so please do make an attempt to answer at least couple of these questions. You can email me your best answer at editorialmadeeasy@gmail.com. If your answer is selected among the best, it could get featured in my next episode. Before signing off, I would like to add that while answering any questions falling within the purview of this topic, you need to substantiate your argument by supplementing it with relevant facts and figures. For example, while making a case for more investments in primary health care center, it is advisable to refer the Health Index 2019 released by Niti Aayog. Friends, that's it for now. If you feel some of your friends could benefit from this video, please do share it after subscribing the channel so that you never miss the latest episodes. Thanks a lot for your patient listening. Bye for now.